Hello. Today I want to talk to you about Heart Metta, what it is, how it works, and why I like it. So Heart Metta is a healing modality that, like other energy healing modalities, shifts your vibrational frequency so you can let go of past trauma and reach detachment, so you can heal yourself at the cellular level, so you can release things from your body and let it go. So I know that sounds rather vague, and when you're doing it, even now as a practitioner, sometimes I think, why would this work? And yet it does. There is something about Heart Metta that really gets down deep and helps you shift your energy into a far more positive and more aligned direction. So I started being interested in Heart Metta because when I was walking the road to burnout, which I've talked about before, one of my former students, who was by then a good friend, suggested that I go see her mother, who was an energy healer, Sandra Sweetman. So I went to see Sandra. We actually communicated via Skype, which is how I do my healings as well. And I had several sessions with her, and it was amazing because I was pretty far along this road to burnout. And after my sessions with her, I felt this detachment instead of rage. Just, I no longer held on to those feelings and anger and frustration and all of those things that I'd held tightly on to for several years. I just let it go. I achieved forgiveness, which is not, we'll talk about forgiveness later, which is not just forgiving someone, but breaking the energetic connection between the two of you, the negative energetic connection. And when I decided to retrain as a life coach, I thought, oh, it would be nice to have a healing modality. And then I thought, I wonder if Sandra is doing anything. And I looked it up, and sure enough, for a few years at that point, she had been teaching and training people in Heart Metta. And I thought, okay, well, there you are. That's what I want to do. But in the meantime, I was in the middle of my life coach training, and I thought, well, I won't bother her yet. I'll contact her later, and I will start by doing some tapping. So tapping, you may know, is what it sounds like. You do actual pressure points by going tap, 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 and tap, 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 tap. And you do that to reinforce some of the things that you learn in, say, mindset coaching. So it helps clear things out of the body. Now, tapping is hugely effective and wonderful, probably for 90 or 95% of the people, especially if you go back to the founder of tapping and actually look up the specific ways to do it as opposed to random things on the internet. But for me, it was an energetic disaster. I did it, and it just sit in my system, and this is part of fibromyalgia, this is part of HSP. It sent my system into overdrive. I just went, I could not handle it at all. And I said this to a few people, and some people were like, I've never heard of that happening. That's very strange. And other people were like, what did you think would happen, Celia? Obviously, my acupuncturist could not believe that I was banging myself in acupressure points with a little tapping. She's like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. You were way too high strung, essentially. She didn't say high strung, but that's what she meant. You're way too high strung for that. So I knew that I couldn't offer something like tapping to my clients because it doesn't work for me. It sent me into a flare that kept me in bed for a couple of weeks. So I reached out to Sandra a little bit earlier than I planned to, and we started talking about training, and eventually I started my training and went all the way through it, and it's been amazing. It's the most amazing energetic practice. So here are some reasons that I love it. First, let's talk about, as I was saying before with the tapping, there are a lot of energetic practices that can negatively affect you as well as positively affect you. They're not quite the right thing, or they're too strong, or for whatever reason, they don't affect you positively. And even when you get a massages, for instance, massages can be just the most wonderful, miraculous thing. But speaking as someone with fibromyalgia, if someone massages a trigger point and goes into it just right at the right angle, then I will be in pain for ages. Most people are not like that, but I'm like that, and every single person is different. With Heart Metta is set up in such a way that you cannot continue, you cannot push it beyond certain points. And it's restricted to what that client is ready to accept, what their body is available for, what their mind is available for. So it doesn't become overwhelming. And that is a tremendous advantage, I found, a really wonderful advantage. Another thing that I love about Heart Metta is that you don't have to relive your trauma to cleanse it and let it go, to go through the forgiveness practice, to let it go. You don't even have to talk about it. You can just say, that bad thing that happened to me, or that thing that happened to me that I didn't want. That is plenty for Heart Metta. And if, working as a practitioner, if there's something particular, sometimes I have to ask a question to make sure that there aren't related things that I need to deal with as well. Okay, so I will ask that question, but generally you don't have to talk about the trauma at all. And there are so many healing practices and types of counseling that require you to relive the trauma, to visualize it, to see it in your head over and over again in order to desensitize you to that. Heart Metta never requires that. You do not have to go back to that place. You can let it go without revisiting it. And that's really one of the great miracles of it. And I think it's just fabulous for that. Another thing I really like about Heart Metta is it's not based on any particular religion, and it doesn't require religious beliefs. So if you are, say, a conservative Christian or a conservative Muslim, either way, this will work for you. You can change particular sayings and make them into prayers that's specific to your religion, and that works just fine. There's no restriction on religion. There's no confrontation with religious belief systems. And I live in a very diverse area, and I work with people of many, many different religions. So I like the fact that people don't feel that their religion is threatened by this, and that's important to me. Another thing I love about it is that it has very strong filters. And I have a whole other video on why if you're close to the light, you attract the dark even more, and how we need to use filters. So Heart Metta is set up with these filters, so when we're doing the work, we only work with 100% love and light. We don't work with anything else. So you don't have other things trying to sneak in and act in a way that is detrimental to you. Okay, so you can feel confident in that, and it makes a real difference to me as both a practitioner and as a client to have that assurance and to know, to feel it and to know it when I'm in the middle of a session. And finally, I love that Heart Metta is simple and straightforward. There's not 97 steps you have to do. There's not fast eye movements. You don't have to twirl around 3 times. All you have to do is you put your hand over your heart. You breathe when I say breathe. Sometimes you repeat phrases. It's really, really simple and straightforward. And I've actually spoken to Sandra that maybe we should make it a little bit more performative. Maybe making it more performative would make it more popular, because sometimes people only believe in things when they're really hard. And Heart Metta is not hard. It's very simple and it's very straightforward. Now, it takes training to learn. You can't just sit down and do it for yourself. It really does take a lot of training to learn the nuances of it. So I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's not, it's like Mozart instead of Liszt, okay? It's beautiful and simple and straightforward. Sorry, that's a music reference for those of you who aren't pianists, especially. So you need to learn as a practitioner how to do it beautifully, how to do the simple thing really, really beautifully. But as a client, you don't have to build a bonfire and chant around it. You don't have to dance. You don't have to burn things. You don't have to weigh different crystals or place them on your bodies in particular points. You don't need needles. And let me tell you, I do believe in acupuncture. I think acupuncture is wonderful, but Heart Metta works without using any of those things. And it's a wonderful, wonderful practice. So if you're interested, DM me and I will tell you more about it, or you can have a session. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.